Hey guys, Hadrian here, Invincible Jiu Jitsu, and today we're asking the question, how can we handle unsafe or careless training partners? I was talking today to a friend of mine, a very experienced Jiu Jitsu player. He's been rolling for 14 years. Actually, the guy that got me into Jiu Jitsu many moons ago. We were on the phone, we were discussing where he's at in his journey right now, and the obstacles that he might be facing and the things that he's overcoming, because he's getting on in age. He's 44 years old, which is not that old, but he was off the mats for quite some time. Life kind of caught up with him, kids, all this kind of stuff. He had a couple of injuries, so he spent a couple of years off the mats, and now I think he spent about a year and a half at a new place, and he's getting himself back into jiu-jitsu. And it hasn't been easy for him because he's older. He's found it difficult to pick up his conditioning, and the place that he's rolling at, they have a very heavy emphasis on sport jiu-jitsu. So there's a lot of young, strong, aggressive guys there. He says that the club is populated mainly by white belts. So a lot of people who are new to the sport and perhaps aren't so aware of the necessity to take care of not only yourself, but of your training partners. So my friend was telling me how he rolled with one of these white belts 3 or 4 months ago, and the white belt got him in a footlock, which he defended. The white belt managed to switch to a heel hook, and they rolled. My friend rolled to escape the heel hook. They rolled into the wall. The white belt, of course, saw his opportunity, cranked on the inside heel hook. So the worst of all the heel hooks, cranked it on and tweaked my friend's knee. Seriously enough that he was out for a couple of weeks. And my friend was upset. He was saying that there's no respect paid to higher belts at this club, and to his perception, at a lot of the clubs. We're in England, so maybe there's a particular lack of respect here in the UK. But my friend was very upset because his perception is that there isn't the respect that is, the respect isn't demonstrated towards higher belts that he believes there should be. And that is, for me, a separate argument. Now, you could argue that the emphasis lies with the head instructor of this club for not educating his white belts more effectively in perhaps this etiquette, or at least the mindset of taking care of your training partners. That's one aspect, that's for sure. You could even ask, why is he teaching heel hooks to white belts? Teaching heels, something that is inherently quite dangerous, more dangerous than the average submission hold, and they are, to someone that is so early in their jiu-jitsu game. That's a whole other question as well. We'll maybe address that another time. My belief is that the responsibility lies primarily in that moment with my friend who's been rolling for 14 years. He is experienced enough to understand that he's going with someone who isn't that experienced, who probably doesn't know any better. And he should be, and he is experienced enough to know that he needs to take care of himself. He needs to be super aware of the danger that is presented, not only by just jiu-jitsu, the danger that is inherent in jiu-jitsu and the combat sport, but the danger that is inherent when you're going with someone that doesn't know any better, that isn't experienced enough to know when to crank something, when to not crank something, isn't experienced enough to understand the mindset, to deeply understand the mindset of how to take care of the person you're training with, probably doesn't even understand how to take care of themselves, let alone someone else. The responsibility is with my friend because he knows all these things are true about this white belt. Yet he, and probably his ego, allowed himself to get into the position where he was forced to tap in a position where he's not in full control of the situation. He's let it get too far. He's let it get too deep. If you're rolling to try and escape and you roll into the wall with something as potentially health altering as a heel hook, an inside heel hook, the worst of the heel hooks, that responsibility lies with you. You know the dangers. You know who you're rolling with. You know your enemy. You know yourself. You know your own abilities. You've been going 14 years. You know what you're capable of and what you're not capable of. He knows that he's coming back to training after, a couple of years off. And I know, my friend, I know that he has a little bit of an ego. I know that he doesn't like to tap. And look, what higher belt likes to tap to a lower belt? Especially someone who's been training 14 years, now finds himself in a compromising situation with a white belt and is getting tapped. Of course, if your whole jiu-jitsu life you've been training yourself not to tap in these situations and to not tap to lower belts, then of course you're going to find it very difficult to tap when it really matters. So there in itself is a lesson. When you're training, it's not the competition. It's not the street. Training is where you learn. Training is where you do all your learning. And so it would benefit us to learn to tap freely, to give those taps away like they're candy. Like I'm Willy Wonka at the candy store. I'm just giving taps out, left, right, and center. That's not to say you tap easy, because then nobody learns. You don't learn where your thresholds are. Your partners don't learn whether their submissions are really effective or not. So you don't tap easy, but you tap freely, and you get used to tapping freely, because again, we're learning. Even myself, as a black belt and someone who's been going for over a decade now, I don't always manage it. Of course, the ego sometimes creeps in, and you say to yourself, you get into a compromising situation, and you say to yourself, I'm not tapping to this guy or this girl. But you have to be able to check yourself and weigh the consequences. If it's a momentary dent to the ego versus maybe 6 months out of training because you've had the ligaments in your knee shredded because you didn't tap soon enough, then it's not much of a question here. So for myself, for my students, I always encourage them and me to tap freely. And the more you tap, when you get good at tapping, you get less afraid of being tapped out. You learn to, and this allows you to go more deeply into compromising, into dangerous positions, with more awareness. Because you can tap early, you're far less at risk of being hurt. So you can go further into the submission attempts, and your ability to defend and escape starts to get better and better and better. You learn more. You learn more about being in the deep water if you are willing to tap quickly. It doesn't become a fight to the death. You don't go in there fearful, tense, constricted. You go in there light, free, and open to learning. You go in there playful. And as we know, when you're playful, if you watch Andrew Huberman, when you're playful, that's when you are most effective at learning. This is how we learn as children. This is how animals learn. As young cubs, they play. And this sense of play is something that we must bring to our jiu-jitsu so that we can constantly be evolving, going deeper in our understanding, getting better, always getting better, keeping it playful. So this is the importance of being able to tap freely. Now, there is a big difference between someone who doesn't know any better and somebody who is careless. The person who doesn't know any better can be educated. They can be shown a different way. They can learn how to take care of their training partners, how to take better care of themselves on the mat. Someone who is careless, you can get purple belts, brown belts, black belts who are careless. Their priority is their own, is getting the submission. Their priority is their ego. What's not a priority for them is your safety. Those people have to be guarded against. Over here in England, we have something. It's been a while since I took my driving test, but back in the day when I was learning to drive, we're very big on defensive driving. So you see a threat, you're looking out for potential threats so that you can avoid them way ahead of time. Self-defense is exactly the same. The way I teach self-defense is 90% of self-defense is up here. It's your awareness of the environment, of the people around you. 10% is the moves. If it gets to the stage where you need to use the moves, you've already let it get too far. Jiu Jitsu is the same. Rolling defensively, training defensively. If there is someone at your club who makes you feel unsafe, and there's a difference between discomfort. Discomfort is a place that actually affords us the ability to grow. So it's good. Discomfort is good. Seeking discomfort is good in Jiu Jitsu as it is in life. There's a difference between discomfort and feeling unsafe. If there's someone at your club who consistently makes you feel unsafe, and maybe they just don't know any better, to give them the benefit of the doubt, it's probably not intentional. Even people who are careless, in a sense, they don't know any better. They're probably not trying to hurt anybody. They're just careless. They're too interested in the submission. They're not interested enough in taking care of the people around them. There's a difference between that and discomfort, and it's the carelessness that we have to be defensive against, that we have to guard against. Your obligation, your primary obligation, is to stay safe and healthy so you can train and grow. You are under no obligation to put yourself in situations where you feel unsafe. You are not obligated to your training partners. You're not obligated to your coach. You're not obligated to your club. As I say, your first obligation is to stay safe. Your second obligation is to take care of the people around you so that you can all grow together. If there is someone at your club that makes you feel unsafe, avoid that person. Don't roll with them. Do yourself a favor. If you avoid them once, twice, 3 times, they're going to get the message eventually that you don't want to roll with them. They'll probably start to avoid you too. If they ask you, if they keep coming after you and finally they ask you, are you avoiding me? Be honest with them. Say, yeah, I'm avoiding you. Tell them diplomatically, tell them nicely that you don't feel that rolling with them is going to help you grow as a jiu-jitsu player. You don't feel that you're in a place where you can grow rolling with them. And so you must be more selective with the people you train with. Especially as you become older, this becomes far more crucial. When we're older, we don't heal as fast. An injury for someone who's 20 and keeps them out for a couple of weeks might be a 3-month recovery process for someone who's in their 40s, 50s and 60s. It could even be career ending. So we have to be even more defensively minded, even more selective when it comes to our training partners as we get older. We have to think even more carefully about protecting ourselves, preserving our health. So don't feel bad, don't feel obliged to be selective with your training partners. And again, if it comes to the point where you have to explain to someone why you don't want to roll with them, explain nicely, explain diplomatically, but do explain. Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you found it interesting. I hope it helps you on your jiu-jitsu journey. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. That helps the channel grow immensely. And I will see you in the next video.